you very much for being here today. Thank you for letting me be here today. It's always an honor to stand up here in front of all these people. And the one thing I always remember, I'm not here alone. I'm here with all the people in this world. You know, I was doing some statistics, and I don't usually like reading from stuff. It usually comes from my heart. But when I read this, you know, I like to thank UNWTO for picking me from out of more than 473 million, some 5,000 distant indigenous peoples. My brother and sisters live in 90 different countries, and we speak over 4,000 languages. You know, and some of those languages are in danger now. And the one thing that we all have in common is taking care of the water, the land, the people, and the animals. And for me, we always got to start from the past. When I think of being up here, and I had to do some research on this, you know, over a decade ago, UNWTO and UNWTO, World Indigenous Tourism Alliance, started a bilateral collaboration, and they created a book, Compendium of Good Practices in Indigenous Tourism. You know, when they created this, they wanted to talk about the jobs, strengths, local economy, reducing our poverty in our communities, but also empowering our women and our youth. It also created independence from our governments. So when we look forward to today and the presence that we have and the things that we do, we always got to introduce ourselves. As you look up here, this is my mom, my dad, my late dad, Willard and Marie Antoine. We come from a little community called Slickstow, which means people of the low-lying valley. And when I look at this picture, it reminds me why I come here and why I stand up here, is because they brought me into this world, and I got the opportunity to learn the culture through them, through my grandparents, and through my great-grandparents. The community I come from represents 17 different communities, and each feather on there that you see, this feather represents my community. Again, the Shuswap Nation is what we're called, the Interior Salish. And when I look at this feather, this is our flag and our communities and our nation. But reality to this flag, and we always have to speak our truths, when we had this flag, we actually had 32 communities that stood up here. And because of the smallpox epidemic, it really has put a detrimental to our community and to our nation. So when I stand up here, I hold the other 15 feathers of this, because each one of those communities were wiped out of the smallpox. And when we have to start over, and where we had to start over, was something that I really had to learn and really had to understand where we are today, because today is a new way of looking at life and how we can use culture into tourism industry. So when I started my journey in this world, so you look up here, you look up my community on the top left, and then there's my company called Moccasin Trails that I started in 2018. Thompson Okan Tourism Association, TOTA, was a regional level that I got to learn a little bit about the history of what tourism was about. I'm a part of the Indigenous Tourism BC, which is a provincial body in Canada. And then in the Indigenous Tourism of Canada is the national body. And then there's UNWTO. So believe it or not, I sit on all those boards in some shape or fashion. So when I started my journey, I never thought I'd be the one to get to stand up here and be a part of something that gives us opportunity to sit around the table. We don't believe in sitting like this. We believe in campfires. When we call a campfire, if you know, all y'all camped at one time or another, we sit in a circle and we're relaxed, and we're supposed to be sitting up here looking at each other and being equal, sitting around the table. And that's important for me, because when I look around the table, I really look at the opportunities and the things that we've done over that time. When I think of the companies that I worked with and the organizations that I got to work with, it was an amazing opportunity to learn what the tourism industry had to offer the Indigenous culture. And I'm a perfect example of that, because when I started, I was a frontline worker at a small resort, an Indigenous resort, 100% owned. So I was lucky to get into a business where it was already set in a place where it just fit in. And that's how the Thompson Okanagan Tourism Association got involved. How I got involved with it was getting on that board and getting that opportunity to sit and listen to what that organization had to do, and how they branded and how they developed tourism in our region. And then I got the opportunity to go work with the Indigenous tourism at BC. That was another eye-opener to see over 400 businesses in British Columbia, Indigenous owned. And then when I got to the Indigenous tourism of Canada, that ballooned up to 1,800 businesses. And I'm going to share a couple of videos up here. I'm going to pass some here. I'm going to let you watch a couple of them. It's only got 9 minutes.